Hey guys. So, since I got so many awesome books at the library, um, which you can see in another video, I am going to make some bookmarks and drop them off there one day this week. They have a little basket by the checkout with ones that kids have made and stuff, and I thought, okay, I have all these books, and I was just feeling super appreciative even though I paid for them, but it was just such an awesome event, and they don't have to do that. They can donate them, or I guess, I mean, librarians don't seem like the type of people that would chuck them, but they don't have to do that. And it was just super organized, so I am going to use some clippings from these books, and I'm going to make some bookmarks and donate them. So let's see what happens. Sometimes I see a face in something and I just can't resist giving it a little more animation. But I don't think I'm gonna add this. I wish if it, well, I could flip it over. We'll see. Maybe I'll try and make it work. But sometimes I just do goofy things just for fun. I think this is my favorite stencil, like ever, out of all the ones I have. But I like the actual design that you see here. Um, Not the circles that you get when you print it, how it's meant to be printed or stenciled. So I like to print it instead of stencil so that I'm getting the positive space, the shape that's actually here, not the stencil design of the negative space. So usually anytime I use this, I'll stencil it on something else first. Like this is just deli paper or in a art journal or whatever. And then while it's still wet, stamp it down. It never gives me the perfect shape, which is also why I like it the most. I like the worn look that we get because the paint, I put it on here pretty thin so it's dried already. This is too hard. I've looked through all the books that I picked out and I tried to pick some that I thought I could part with, and like they're just too good. There's so many things that are like, I don't want to cut that. I want to cut it, but I don't know if I want to use it just on this bookmark. I want to save it for something else. Um, so I'm gonna try and go through faster in some other ones and just part with something. Okay, so I went through a bunch of books and I've got a little stack of, I'm saving this if you didn't see my little note. Um, I've got a little stack of illustrations, and then I went through my scrapbook paper and just picked out patterns and colors that I thought would go with each one. So I've got this to go with that one, these two, and really maybe I won't put all these down, but I've just kind of picked out what stuck with me. I like the light bulbs. I'm not sure which one they'll go with. I first picked this one, but I don't have very much that lime green showing in here, so I may add some of this paint to draw that out, or I may use these smaller light bulbs that are a little more muted with the one solid color. So I'm not sure which one of those that'll go with. This is a maybe just because the colors match really nicely, but didn't stand out to me as much as the other ones. I like this little arrows darting across, and then I really like this one. I like the yellow. I like all the colors in it, but the yellow doesn't repeat in the bottom half with these earth tones. So I'm not sure how I'm going to make that work. I may cut another piece of this out in the future and use that as my base for the bookmark and start with that. There were a couple patterns that I saw that I think would be a good starting point for bookmarks. So we'll see where this takes me. Alright, it's that one. Totally done. I'm very happy with it. I don't know if I'll be able to give it away. That's the hard part. Alright, so that one is done. And I liked the colors on these, like kind of bow tie shapes, but it just seemed too geometric. I don't know, it wasn't working, it just felt really forced. So maybe I'll find something else for these. So these are the Faber-Castell gelatos, and if you haven't used them with this stencil before, it gives a really cool effect. It's slightly raised. I compare it, at least with my students, to silk screening, and I was gonna pull out my red paint, but I'm like, I'm getting through these, I'm almost done, I'm feeling the momentum, so I didn't want to have to paint it on, wait for it to dry, blah blah blah. So I thought, ooh, I saw these, grabbed it, thought, alright, great. So it does this, the holes are a little bit small that it will kind of grind off too much off the tops. That's why I would just scribble a bit in the middle and then smudge it around with my finger so that I wasn't gnawing up the whole tip of my gelato. But that's a really cool effect. Also great to use with stencils that have lettering on them. Okay, so I've never really gone over the just such a thick application of the gelato with really any type of matte medium. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to try and kind of stipple it on so I'm not smearing around all of the red because it is water soluble, and I painted that background yellow with it, so I'm almost certain it will smear. So I'm going to see if I can avoid using too much matte medium. But I really like, this is really old and really thin, so I want to be able to protect it under there. So we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so if you can't tell, what I ended up doing was putting it on super thick. I just felt like I would be disturbing the polka dots less if I'm just grazing over it with the brush with a really thick coat, because then the glue is just settling in there. I'm trying to just not make the smears as obvious and kind of just wipe them away with a dry brush. I'm fine with red being in more places than the dots, but I don't want them to be so obviously smudged. It'll still, look good, but and the most important thing is it's going to be a bookmark. It's going to be used a lot, so I really want to make sure it has a nice seal over the whole thing. So I'm going to let that dry and come back in a little bit and see how it looks. Then I think I'll add a ribbon to each one. Alright, so these are nice and dry now. This one has a slight warp to it just because I laid it on so thick, but no smudges. So these are nice and protected, so for whoever uses it, they're not going to get red pastel all over their library book. So I'm going to untape these, and I did go along the edges while they were drying every now and then with the X-Acto knife just to make sure that they weren't going to get too stuck, because I didn't want them to rip when I pulled them off. So I'm glad I did that because there's some pretty thick overspill on the edges. And this is just Bristol board that I used, nice and thick, pretty smooth. And I think I've got 3 more that are blank that I got out that same sheet. I think it was an 8x10 sheet. I just picked a random size. This wasn't any particular measurement or anything. Okay, I'm going to flip this over so we can see how nice they look on a solid background. So, got this one. Turtle. And this one. So, I'm going to punch some holes in these, add some ribbon, and then that's it. I'm just eyeing it up. I'm not making any particular central point. Alright, so here are my ribbon options. I'm going to do the gray for this one. Maybe light blue here and bright royal blue here. Yeah, that's good. So if you watched my last video, I added some ribbon to a bookmark that I'd already made, and then I used my butane torch and just singe the end, and that'll melt it just enough so that it's not going to fray on people. This is from Home Depot. I use it for the Christmas ornaments that I make, so it's just the closest thing. If you have a lighter, or even for thicker ribbon had used a stove top, probably not necessary for such a little ribbon, but if you don't have anything else and that's your last resort, sure, you can do that. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Alright, so those are my 3 bookmarks. I'm super happy with how they turned out. I kind of am really having a hard time thinking about giving them away, but I do have an endless supply now of just tons of resources with these awesome images, so I know that I can make plenty more. And I know that these will make some people really happy and a nice surprise to hopefully brighten their day. So, hope this inspired you, and stay tuned. So here's a bonus bookmark. I did one more, and this one is using just totally scraps from the other 3 bookmarks that I did. And then as the focal point, instead of cutting out one more thing for my book, I used my embossing powder and just put a little bit of a heart here. And I thought this coral went nicely with the earth tones and the teal. On the back of each of them, I did put one of the Tim Holtz quotes and a little Instagram doodle that I made with my usernames. That way when people find them, they can tag me and I can see, what books they're living in and that people are enjoying them. There you go.